Okay, so now what we've seen so far is like as I said before that I really don't know this Indian, so this is all like new stuff. Is that we want to say that the basic fact is that when you say Vayaavor, because it's a yichud between, he's saying right now Yisroel and Leah, Lamalam and Achazah. I still really don't understand how that works, especially in light of some things that I read over here now, that we're going now. So then, that's one thing. And then the other thing is that when you get to the Philisapayim, there's another yichud that takes place between Yaakov and Rachel. And that's at the Netzchon Hod of Zeranpin. It's just all different kinds of ideas here that I can't answer the question of how if Yisrael, let's say, is Zeranpin, the whole length of Zeranpin, is going to make a yichud with Leah, who's above the Chazer, because his yisod is down at the bottom, and her yisod is up at the top. So I don't know how they get together. And then my first thought is that she, at the nighttime, as we said before, because Leah's the yichud, I think that takes place with Leah, is after midnight. So that she actually fills up the space that was vacated by Rachel Imeinu as she goes down to be with the sparks of kedusha that are lost in Bia. And then that's when the yichud takes place. That's what I thought. But I'm getting a little mixed up in some of this that I read before, that I read, just read ahead a little bit. So let's get started, and let me go over just some other ideas. So then he said, okay, now that you have those two facts, you have these two zivugim, one between Yisrael, again, he says Yisrael and Leah, Lamalam and Achaza, and then with Yaakov and Rachel, Menachaza Lamata. That's like saying like that. So then he said, but also, there's something that's produced as a result of the yichud that you have with Leah, and he went into the concept of neshamos and nefashos, and then he said they were back and forth. Well, is all the neshamos come from Leah, all the nefashos come from Rachel. How's it go? So is it mixed, or it seems like a little bit vague? It's like maybe this way and that way. I really don't know yet. So,
blended. It's blended. It's not black and white. The nefashos and the neshamas are not barely relegated to one or the other. I think you see an overlap.
Okay. I don't know. I really don't know all of that. And then we got this idea here is that, let's see, the bundle really starts in Leah because Leah is in the high place. And so Leah has within her, I don't know, Chasadim and Gevurot. I forget how it goes. So we'll see it. And she gives them to Zeranpin, or then Zeranpin to Yaakov and Rachel. Chasadim to Yaakov, Gevurot to Rachel. Something like that. And then it says that there's two ways of looking at this. There's also another way, is that Leah is Ruach and Rachel is Nefesh. So that's more like it in some ways, because first you have the concept of Neshama and Nefesh. Now you have Ruach and Nefesh. That's another set of words, another set of possible understandings. So it's a little tricky. So let's go to page Samach Zion now. And we read across the top here in the blurb. It says, she is boyer shachaluka ka'ayin zu, that a differentiation like this one, bebechinas neshama v'chaya na'asis bezer anpen. So let's...
I think you're going a little ahead of yourself. I think we're in Samach Hay at Ches. I think that's where we are.
Okay, I have us here on 6/27/22, which is yesterday.
Yeah.
Pointing at number Samach Zion. We just went through a very long thing yesterday, which was interesting, but I want to go forward onto number Yud Zion on page Samach Zion. So he had taught about the Chalukah, which we're talking about, was the giving of the Chasadim to Yaakov and the Gevuros to Rachel. Now that's coming from Leah. Now that was part of yesterday. You want to start that again yesterday because it was a deep place.
Yeah,
We could do that. It's okay. Okay, so I do have a mark there too that was from the day before yesterday. So we'll try it again. Let me read the blurb. Let's explain it another way. Nesinis ha'chug, that is the Chasadim and Gevuros b'Leah v'Rachel, how they're distributed in Leah and then Rachel. Yisbar shel Leah b'chinas ruach. So this is a naming category. If they're naming, instead of her being called Neshama, which it seemed like they wanted to go first, now they want to call her Ruach. But Rachel b'chinas nefesh, and Rachel is now called nefesh. So we'll read the top. It says, "V'da ki mitzasi kasi b'kuntras b'makom acher." So he saw someone else took notes from the Rav, both and acher in another way. V'zechan yana b'kitzer. So this is what the other notes, I shouldn't say guy, but the other notes go. He said, "Chamisha Gevuros asher toch yisod de'ima." So within the yisod of Ima, there are 5 Gevuros. So she's the source of the Gevuros, just like Abba is the source of the Chasadim. Asher toch yisod de'ima, and that is Shebedas the Zer Anpin, which is in the Das Zer Anpin. Her yisod is inside of the Das Zer Anpin. That's all in the middle line. Hinei heim b'milas Vayaavor. So then what we see over here in the milas Yaavor, Yotzes L'chutz, they leave V'nitanos b'Leah. Just let me say, where do they leave? They were where? He says in the Das, the Chasadim and the Gevuros are there. He says, what's leaving? The Gevuros. Hinei ha'chamisha Gevuros asher katok yisod de'ima shebedas zah hinei heim b'milas Vayaavor. When they say the word Havor, they become released. Yotzes l'chutz, they go out. It's like the door opened and they're going. Minitanis b'Leah, and where do they go? They go to Leah. Shalo al yedei zah. But
we said the Gevuros went to Rachel.
Okay, let's just keep reading along. They do. Okay, so that's why this is worth going over more than one time.
It's not mental gymnastics, but it's a little confusing.
Well, just you have to see it. That's one reason for going a little faster, but I don't mind going slower and looking at it and try to really understand it. So, V'sham na'ases bo b'chinas ruach. So, when these Gevuros are released from the yesod of Ima, which is inside of the Das of Zah, they go to Leah. And Leah is above the Chazit. Where are they released at? I'm assuming they're released at the Chaz of Zer Anpin and they fly upward, but maybe not. Maybe they just are, maybe they're in we talked about Das yesterday. So Das is apparently 2 locations. One is in the neck on the other side of Leah, and the other one is down below at the Chazit. So there's a natural opening at the Chazit. That's where it opens up. But over here we said, so we're saying that when you say the word Yaavor, though, this has the effect of releasing, let's say like the yesod of Ima is a tube. That's what I'm thinking. It's like a tube. And, the Gevuros are one on top of the next. And I think I might have seen that someplace. There's different opinions about this. There could be the one inside of the next, one on top of the next. The question is, actually, it's not too many divisions. So which one is the first one? I don't remember. Is the first one, that is the bottom one. The bottom one is either Hod or it's Chesed. I don't know. But it's one of the Gevuros, because the Gevuros, once again, are Chesed, Gevurot, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, and Yisod. That's their names. So he said, I don't know the lineup, but they're in a line. And when you say Vayaavor, he's saying, picture this, that the line gets removed, the surrounding gets removed, the lavush is removed, and they're open, and they go to Leah. Because Leah, apparently, he wants to say, is really in the same location. She's in the back, this is in the inside, and it goes through, it opens up, and it goes to Leah, where she's from the Chaz Lamala, and this is also from the Chaz Lamala. So therefore, that's my explanation at the moment. So then after that, there is a Yichud with Zah, V'nosin b'acha hamishach chasadim b'zivug zivug. Now he says after the Gevuros go over to Leah, Zer Anpin, we have to figure out, see, like there's lots of words here, like Zer Anpin, and there's going to be a Yisroel, and then there's going to be Yeshua, and there's Yaakov. So all of these are aspects of Tiferestic aspects. But the question is, usually when we say Zah, we mean the whole 10 spheros or 9 spheros plus a Taras Yisod of Zah. That's what we mean. And what happens then, there's going to be a Yichud between her and Zer Anpin. And he's going to place the Chasadim inside of her. Now this is the same thing you were trying to say about Rachel, which is true. The whole idea of the Yichud is to sweeten the dinner. So that's why you have this book, this tremendous book, that Garden of Peace that I read. It says it's really trying to tell you what a husband's role is with his wife, which is not easy. It is to give to her. So this is a base thing here. So now Zah is going to do, and what is he going to do? He's going to give her the 5 Chasadim, sweeten her up. That's the idea, to make the balance work. All of this is happening when you're saying, after you say Vayaavor, that's when they get released, and then apparently the trickling in of or how it works, of the Chasadim into that Yichud happens during the 13 midot. Then after that, they break out through the feet of Leah. Okay, now what? Let me see if I can catch up here. He says during the 13 midot of Rachamim, what's happening? You're bringing, actually the Yichud is taking place. That is the transfer of the Chasadim into Leah. And he's not in too much detail about how this transfer is working, but just that they're being transferred in, and that is the Yichud. That's the Yichud that's going to create. So he says, and so what happens is now you have this, I guess it's a lot of energy from these two coming together, and so after that it breaks out through the feet of Leah. And these Chasadim and Gevurot, which are now were in the Yisod of Leah, V'nitanim Chasadim berosh Yaakov, and
are they mixed? The Chasadim and the Gevurot, are they separate from one another?
He's about to say this.
Okay.
So he says, yeah. So he said, V'yotzim Chasadim beGevurot and Nizkar. So they both go out. V'nitanim Chasadim berosh Yaakov, which means to me that they're not mixed. You have the Chasadim. No, I hear what you're saying. You're saying is, since they are opposites, and the nature of the opposites is to mate. So inside of the, let's say, the Yisod of who we talk about, the Yisod of Leah, inside of the, say you have these opposite forces here, and they're going to mate. And that's going to produce something, but he's also seems to be saying that they actually don't change as a result of that. In other words, the man is still a man and the woman is still a woman, like that, but there is something new created out of it. So, in other words, the answer to the question is the Chasadim are still the Chasadim, and the Gevurot are still the Gevurot, but between them, though, they create a different energy. Okay? So he says that energy breaks out through the feet of Leah. Because the whole Leah is like, this is my explanation. Okay, we'll hear the tip in a minute. This is the way I'm understanding it right now. He says that all this energy is going to break out through the feet of Leah. And now everything is mixed. Now you see that the Gevurot, there are Gevurot there, and there are Chasadim there. The Nitanim HaChasadim berosh Yaakov, and the Chasadim go into the head of Yaakov, who's from the Chaza Lamata, because it's spilling out from her bottom, which is at the Chaza. And that's where Yaakov's head is. The Gevurot go into the Rosh of Rachel, because that's where her head is at. Kenoida. Yaakov Rachel came tachas ragle Leah, because that's where they're at, underneath the feet of Leah. So if Leah spills out this energy coming out, the Chasadim that were part of the creation of that energy are going to go to Yaakov, and the Gevurot are going to go to Rachel. And so that's what's happening. He says this is it. This is what's happening. So he says, then after that, he said, now you go to Nefilas Apayim. Mizdav gam Yaakov Rachel gam came, they make a Yichud also. Right? So this is the V'nosen Yaakov Rachel b'sod zivug, and he puts Chasadim inside of her because he got the Chasadim from the fact that they broke out through the feet of Leah, and he got the Chasadim, and that's going to put the Chasadim are going to go through him to his Yisod, let's say so to speak, and as a result of the same thing is going to happen with the Gevuros of Rachel. Her Gevuros are going to go through down to her Yisod, and now the Yisodas are going to meet v'gam as ha'chamisha Chasadim v'na'asim oz osem atipos shel Chasadim v'gevuros ha'elo b'bechidas nefesh. And when they meet here in Rachel, because she's really where we're going, the ship is heading towards her Yisod. All the way from whatever conception that the Ein Sof has or Hashem has for whatever bounty he wants to give to us, goes this direction, like this way. So apparently, so big idea here is that Leah is the beginning point of this digestion, let's say, of the light of the Ein Sof. So I think that was illuminating and certainly worth looking at again. He's saying that this is perhaps a different mahalach. Maybe it's the same mahalach. It's just looking at it from this way instead of that way. I don't know. So here we have number ches. Begins at the bottom of page Samach Ches. And it says like this: Od mevi ma shematze ba'ofen acher. Now it's going to bring a different way of looking at this situation. There again, we were talking about the general category of neshama and nefesh. Neshama really relating more to Leah, and nefesh be referring more to Rachel. So over there, that was a general idea. I will look at it differently. So he says they found in the contrast of another person in Yana Bekitzer Husa. Here's the short version, the skinny of what we have here. He said, it's known that there are 5 Gevuros, which are found inside of the Yisod of Ima. Which are inside of the Das of Zah. Now he said, yes.
We just, in Samach Science, now you're in Samach Ches.
I went back to the beginning, yeah. We're on Samach Hey. Page Samach Hey. Yeah, I'm really sorry. We went through and thought through the words of the Rav himself. And now we're going to read the Tiv on the Rav, which he's going to repeat it, a lot of it. So that puts us on the bottom of the left column at number page Samach Hey.
Okay.
So he's going to review what we just learned. Od mevi masha matzah ba'ofen acher. So now I'm going to bring something that I brought in a different way. It's going to be a different way. Bekuntras acher, and somebody else's notes, v'inyana bekitzer, who the idea is simply is this: it's known there are 5 Gevuros, shenimsoim b'soch yisod she'ima, that are in the yisod of Ima. Where is the yisod of Ima? Shenimsa b'das shel Zah. It's inside of the das of Zah. So Zah is covering it. The das of Zah is covering it over this part. He said, now we're going to next slide print of a midot Vayaavor. Now you're in the davening, and you're saying Vayaavor. Chamisha Gevuros elu yotzes min al mechutz ledas Zah. So he doesn't say how they go out, but they go out. Somehow they get revealed and they're out. You say Vayaavor. Yaavor means to pass over. So I guess that's it. You're passing the Gevuros out. V'nitanis Leah. So then the Gevuros are given over to Leah. Avalo al yadei zivugim Zah. But this is not Yisod. This is coming from the lineup of the 5 Gevuros inside of the Yisod of Ima, inside of the Das of Zah, and somehow the door is open and they go out. They go out Vayaavor through the wall of let's say the neck of Zeranpin, and they're out there. There they are. And they go into Leah, who is from the Chazal Lamala. That's also where the Das is located, from the Chazal Lamala. So it's somehow that this lineup of the inside of das is opened up. So he said, V'sham b'Leah as v'sam, and places in Leah chamisha gevuros elo, these 5 gevuros, and then na'asa b'Leah b'chinas ruach. So this is a little shift in language. So before, whatever it is, but the gevuros are deposited in Leah. Now you could call her neshama, you could call her ruach, but here we're calling her ruach. So the ruach is a concept of it's there. It's a Tiferestic concept. So okay, so after you see that Leah has received these 5 gevuros, so she's like solid now with gevuros. Through the zivug, shalo al yedei zivug and zah, she got them without a yichud with zah, was not yesod to yesod. Mekabelas he al yedei zivug im zah, but now she has a yichud with zah. Hanaase betikun the yud gimel midah shel Yaavor, as you saying, a keil rachu and v'chanim, as you're saying all of that. This is the transfer. The words are hanaase betikun the yud gimel midah shel Yaavor as a chamish chasadim. That's when the 5 chasadim come in. So actually, the intercourse is actually taking place at that point. At the point.
If this is so, why couldn't Ima have just given it to Leah and bypass the das of Zeran?
Okay, I don't have the answer. I barely understand this, but I don't have the answer to that.
I mean, what's Zah's role in all of this? Just to be a transference? I mean, there's no zivuk that takes place, and we don't know the mechanism by which these Gevurot are deposited into Leah. So there's something missing. A big.
Okay, but you just have to work with the facts, and we'll look for connections, because you might be looking in the wrong place for the answer. That's a problem.
Oh, okay.
That's a problem. So that's what we do.
Is it a question?
No, it is a question, of course. You try to figure out what's going on. It's part of what I was saying. He says that how they get transferred. But he says, look, the word Yaavor means to pass through.
Pass over.
So pass whatever. So he says. So I'm saying, well, it passes let's say the das is inside the neck, starts at the inside of the neck, goes down to the chazir. So somehow, when you say the word Yaavor, they pass through. They pass through the neck, and they go to Leah, who's also in the same location. That's the way I understand where we're at. Now, no, we're in the Chaz Lamala.
Okay.
Yeah, the das is part of the Rosh,
Right.
but it has an extension down to the Chazir. This is the same position as Leah. But Leah's connected. It's a little different, but so there's other things too. But that's the position of Leah, and therefore on the word Yaavor they pass through. And when you start this Vayaavor Hashem al panav, and went through some of these words in the last drush, Vayikra, and then it says, then you start saying Hashem keil rachu v'chanum. That's a different section. And it means that this is where the Chasadim are going in. When you say Vayaavor, the Gevuros go into Leah. When you say the 13 midot, then that's the Chasadim going into Leah. Okay? Umakabelas hi al yedei zivug im zah. Hanaase betikun hayud gimel midah shel Vayaavor, which is made as a result of the 13 tikkun of midos of the word Yaavor. As a chamisha chasadim, and it transfers those 13 minutes. It transfers them at that time. That is the yichud. Then it says ke'eis mevayar rav as hemshech haschich tachlich v'hu hazivug hasheni. So let's talk about the second yichud. Ki Yaakov v'Rachel b'nefilas apayim. That takes place in Yaakov v'Rachel. Now that's in the lower section. That's from the Chazer Lamata. So let's just understand. He's using the words Zer Anpin and Leah Lamala min hachazer. Yaakov and Rachel Lamata min hachazer. So now we'll look at them. V'zen na'asa al yedei ha-chasadim v'ha-gevuros, and this is made through the chasadim and the gevuros. Shenimsaim ki'es b'Leah, which originally are in Leah. Bokim v'yotzim derek ragle Leah. They break out through the feet of Leah. Ba'ozhem nitonim the Yaakov Rachel. Then they're given to Yaakov Rachel she'omdim tachas ragle Leah, which is at the chazat zeranpin. Chasadim nitanim the rosh Yaakov. So the nitanim, there's a partzuf in the front of zeranpin called Yaakov, and that receives the chasadim. Vayaavor is nitanim the rosh Rachel. Now this is all derech bracha. Okay, this is all the bracha coming. They're underneath Leah. The Leah, v'Rachel, omdim keneged sheves spheres dezah. So Leah and Rachel, where are they? Now I had a little trouble with it. Leah v'Rachel omdim kagon keneged sheves spheres dezah shehem das chagad nine. Okay, so that's how he's counting the sheva.
That's the 9.
That's the 7, but normally the 7 would be Chagad Nehim, like Malchus. So he says this 7, this is where Leah and Rachel together are located. From the Das, which is the upper Das, and then from all the way down to the chest, which is the Chagat, and below the chest, which is the 9. So that makes 7. The Leah, Rosha Keneged the Das. Now Leah, her head is opposite Das. V'ragle Leah Magiyim ad Keneged the Shlish Elyon Shalat Teferes. The upper third of Teferes is where the Chagat, where's the Chaz is located. Metachtecha, and then underneath that place, which is the Chaga, the Chazet. B'shnei Shlishi Teferes Nimsaim Keser Rachel. That's where the Keser of Rachel is located. Rachel has a large head. Covers over all the way down to the 9, I think. But at any rate, that's where her kesser is. So then he says, so now basically the idea is we had the picture of Leah is from corresponding to Das, going down to the Chaza.
Can you stop for a second?
Yeah.
Please explain. The Leah's road, Kesser, it seems to bypass the Chagas of Leah. I don't understand. You're saying it goes all the way from her. The Kesser extends to the Nai of Leah.
Okay, let's get our words straight. So we have to talk about whether we're talking about Zeranpin, who has a relationship. He's in the middle, let's say. Okay. So he's in the middle, and from his das, which is located approximately in his throat, is also the same parallel. Corresponding to that is where the Rosh of Leah is going to be located. So, huh?
This upper das?
Yeah.
You said, okay.
Yeah, that's the upper part of his das.
Okay.
The lower part of his das is an extension called the Torah's Yisod of Ima that goes all the way down to, it's inside of das, it goes all the way down to the Chazer. So this apparently what he's saying. So that's the anatomy of this. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, now Yud Dalet is where we're at right now. So, but he used some different words, and that's what I wanted to make sure that it's clear with you. So first of all, he says that it covers, Leah and Rachel covers 7 spheres of Das, and he said from the Das down to the Yisod. That's where the 2 wives cover. And Leah, where her head is Keneged the Das, the top of Das. And then it says that the feet of Leah, where did they go to? They go to the upper third, reach all the way down to the upper third of Keneged Shlish Elyon Shalat Teferes, which is the body of Zeranpin. Zeranpin, we could divide his body into 3/3. From, let's say, from the shoulders or from the neck, wherever Das starts or ends. I don't know. It's the upper Das. I don't know. I don't want to say Das. Let's say, but at any rate, from the shoulders down to the chaza, that's 1. From the chaza to the belly button is 2, and from the belly button downwards is the place of Yisod is 3. That's a 3/3. Well, the upper third is going to be considered the chagat. And then the lower 2/3 are going to be called the nai. That's the area of the nai. So basically it's 1/3. Sometimes they call it halves, but it's really 1/3 and 2/3. I don't know if I'm explaining that well or not.
It this is a goofy rosh. You're talking about
Just looking at the body of Zeranpin. What is the body of Zeranpin? It's his Tiferes.
Paris.
Right. So the body is Tiferes, and the Tiferes is divided into three. And I just want to go over the language with you, because he has a section, say, from the neck down to the shoulders, or down through the chest, from the top of the what did you say, the collarbone? Let's say that down to that's the chagat, and then you go down from there. Then there's going to be another 2/3 of the body. It goes to 1/3 goes to the belly button. Another third goes to the below that. Yeah. So that's just a different set of languages for the same idea, that it's going down to the chaza. So are going up to the chaza, depending on what you're looking at. Let's go to the number Yudalit. So he said, Va'acher shekib the Rabbi Yaakov Barachel. Now they both got the Chasadim or the Gevuros. As a Chasadim of Gevurot, Bizman, the Filas Apayim, and this is happening. You're receiving this Yichud is taking place when you're falling on your face. Yesh es hazivug hasheni. That's the second Yichud. So first on Vayaavor, you make a Yichud with Leah. Then when you come to the Filas Apayim, which comes right after that, then you add the transfer, and he also let me add in that the transfer of the Chasadim into Leah happens during the 13 midot. Then you're going to go to Nefilas Apayim. When you come to the Nefilas Apayim, you're going to go through the distribution of the Chasadim and the Gevuros going to Yaakov and Rachel. So therefore, that's where we're at now. So then what's going to happen is that that's going to percolate through them. These Chasadim come in and Gevuros come in through their heads, and they're going to percolate, which means they're going to be mitzamsem. They're going to become the original or the Ein Sof that's within them is going to be more and more covered, more measured down, more screened, so that it's more digestible. As you go down, it becomes more and more digestible. And ultimately, the Yisodos, that one, of the female which holds the Gevuros and of the male which holds the Chasadim, are going to come together. And then Yesh as a Zivug Hasheni, so therefore that's the second Yichud, V'hu shal Yaakov Rachel, and this is the one that has to do with Yaakov and Rachel. And then we have one more, a little piece here. He said, Zivug Hazeh, Noisin Yaakov Rachel, Gamet Chasadim. He got the Chasadim from the feet of Leah. And she got V'nimsa Sheyesh B'Rachel Ke'ez, so now you have in Rachel. Hey Chasadim that she just got from Zeranpin Miyakov Be'ez Zivuk. V'hei Gevur shehigia b'Yisod de'ima, then the 5 Gevuros that reach the Yisod of Ima, shebedas dezah, that are in the Zas of Zah, that they go to Leah, for Leah, Umisham Derek Ragle Leah the Rach. So let me go over this one, but let me start from the word V'nimsa. Sheyesh B'Rachel Ke'ez, now inside of Rachel, she has the Hey Chasadim that are given, Shekiblo, that she received, Miyakov Be'ez HaZivog, at the time that their Yisodos met. V'hei Gevur Shehigia Miyasod Ima, and then the 5 Gevuros that came from the Yisod of Ima, from the feet of Ima, Shebedas Dezah, that were originally in the Das Dezah, they went to Leah, Misham Derek Ragle Leah to Rach, and they went to Rach. One more. V'tipos elu shal Chasadim v'Gevuros. So now that you have the meeting of these 2 tipos, shenimsaim kulam ke'es b'Rachel, which are right now found all of them inside of Rachel. Na'asim ke'es b'chinas nefesh. So what he did now over here was he traced down the creation according to this mahalach, the way that we're looking at it. This way, we have a ruach and a neshama, a ruach and a nefesh. He says that this process of bringing this all the way down and meeting the Chasadim and the Gevuros together, that's the creation of the concept of nefesh. Now, looking at it the other way, is that you would say that what happens after Vayaavor and the 13 midot is the concept of neshama. So I can hear that because the whole idea, in other words, that Leah is a concept of neshama, because she's inside of Rachel. And that's the concept of neshama. How is she inside? Because what she has within her is implanted into Yaakov and Rachel. So therefore that means that she's inside of them. That's what I'm thinking. How are you doing time-wise?
All right, I'm good.
Okay, I'm trying to stay strong here. Now page Samach Zion, this is a new idea. So he says, Yisbar Shahaluka Ayin Zu. So this is the way we're differentiating here. The Bechina Neshama V'chaya. Now I didn't hear the word V'chaya mentioned here. Na'asis Bezer Anpin. So the Neshama and Chaya. What does that mean? Well, Neshama is the ore that's on the inside. And Chaya is the Makif. So one's a Panimi, one's a Makif. I'm not sure what he means. The creation of these, Na'asis Bezer Anpin, comes about in Zer Anpin, al yedei zivog Abba V'Ima, through a zivog of Abba V'Ima. Now, exactly what he means to say, I don't know. So he said, V'nira na'nias daiti, Chaim, Akoisiv. So I, your writer, Chaim, my impoverished mind, Ki zehu mamash al derek Abba V'Ima. It's really mamash, this, what is the mamash? I'm trying to figure it out. Comes about through Abba V'Ima, hamizdavdim beso the Chasadim Gevurot shalachem, that make a Yichud. And the Yichud that's taking place is between the Chasadim of Abba and the Gevuros and Ima. V'chimba b'chinda neshama v'neshama l'neshama. So we see this a lot, this language in the Rishash, I see it. It says the concept of neshama, that's in a Panemius. But then there's also a neshama to that neshama, which is the makif. V'hakol miskabetz b'yisod de'ima. Not all of these lights, the makifim and the panimim, they gather together in the yisod of ima, omeslav and vaveshes b'zer anpin, and from that yisod of ima, this neshama and neshama, right? They glow, therefore they glow into Zer Anpin. Now when they're in Zer Anpin, v'nosenes bedato, they're placed in his das, Chasadim and Gevuros, 5 different Chasadim. So this all, he started, where did the Mississippi River start? So it said it starts up in the mountains called Abba V'Ima. Abba has Chasadim, Ima has Gevuros. They meet together, and all of this goes into the Yisod of Ima, which is nosenes bedato, and it goes into Zer Anpin in his das, and it places in there these Chasadim and Gevuros that come from the Yisod of Ima. V'sham na'asas b'chinas ruach. Now when this happens, it makes them into the category called ruach. V'ha'gevuros nitane b'Leah. So the Gevuros themselves go to Leah. This is following along the story we've been learning. V'chasadim nitane alecha. And the Chasadim go to her. Who is her? Besod zivug. Let me just read it again. He said, "V'chuvur nitana v'leya, v'chasadim nitana alecha." There, the Chasadim go to her through the Yichud. That's the skinny of what we learned in the last little piece. V'chim al derek zeh. So in the same way, Leah zu al yoina. So this Leah, she is the female element that's up above. Kibla hachasadim v'gevuros. That's how she gets the Chasadim and Gevuros. Hanikra ruach, which together they're called by the category called ruach. V'yarda mislavesh beYaakov v'Rachel. They go down, they clothe themselves inside of Yaakov v'Rachel. L'asas l'chem mochin, to become mochin for them. That is the Chasadim, that is the right side, the Chasadim and the Gevuros, all of this. Kederek she'ose ima iloah b'Yisrael v'Leah kenizker. In the same way that ima iloah places into Yisrael Leah kenizker. See, now, this is the first place where we see that the Ima Eloah, and then we have a concept of Yisroel and Leah. Before it was what? Zer Anpin and Leah. Now it's Yisroel and Leah, Kenizker. So in this place, we said like this, they make the concept of Nefashos. That is, what are the Nefashos made out of? The Chasadim and Gevuros. Now, previously, we saw that they came into Rachel. Eventually, they were distributed by the feet of Leah. They went into Yaakov and Rachel, wound up percolating through them down to the Yisodis, and there was a Yichud that took place there, and that Yichud produces Nefashos. Now, I'm not sure that that's what he said in this one. So, in order to clarify, let's look at the Yud number Yud Zion in the Tiv. So the Tiv writes, Ke'es now, maybe hamarcho, dugma the inyan ze mamish. So he wants to bring you an example Shemitzana be'Abba ve'Ima that we found in Abba ve'Ima, Shagam mizdavkim v'noistim es Chasadim v'Gevurot shalahem, said that they make a yichud, and they place the Chasadim in the Gevurot, so in other words, they distributed them. Aksham na'asach and neshama v'neshama l'neshama. But of what they're doing over there is they're making a neshama and a neshama l'neshama. V'neshama l'neshama he chaya. So you have to remember that if you wanted to say what's a yechida, then I guess it would be the neshama of the neshama of the neshama of the neshama. I don't know how you work that out exactly, but it's way out there. So at any rate, neshama is corresponds to, let's say, being to neshama. And the neshama, the neshama regards to the chaya. These are likes. The chaya is a makif. So he said, then they go on. So he says, v'acher kach gam chasadim v'gam gevurot nitana b'yisod de'ima. So then after that, the chasadim and the gevuros go into the yisod of ima. V'him is laveshet b'zer anpin, and she takes all of that and she puts it inside the zer anpin. V'nosenes as a chasadim v'gevuros b'das shel hazal. Then she puts the chasadim and the gevuros in the das hazal. That's the 5 chasadim of Vayaavor. V'sham b'zan na'asa the v'chinas ruach. So now that you have these together, they make the concept of ruach. Now this could be, because I'm learning this, if you get a chance to listen to the Sifra Ditzniuta, that's really a deep dive over there. It's the concept, as long as we're talking about Libra, is the concept of the balance scale, which I pronounce as maskala.
Maskala.
Yeah. And the balance idea has to have 2 parts to it. It's not balance if it's only chesed. So it has to have a gevurah. The problem is that their natures of the two is that they would be warring if there wasn't a balance between them. That's the idea here. We see this throughout all things also about health. It's, how do you maintain a balance, especially as you get older? So, but any time. V'sham b'zan na'asa the bechinas ruach. So now they're called ruach, and that's what I'm saying is that ruach is the concept of the maskala. That's what I am just proposing that idea. It corresponds. Let's say that. V'hagevurot nitenem yashol Leah. Now the gevuros go straight over to Leah. V'chasadim nitana to Leah al yedei rebezah, and the chasadim though have to have a yichud. So therefore nitanim Leah are given to Leah al yedei zah. That is yisod b'derech yichud. That'd be a yichud between them. So without getting into details of how the gevuros get over there, but he said you say the magic word Vayaavor, and it moves the gevuros over to Leah. And then there's a yichud that takes place between Zer Anpin and Leah too, because now, I guess you would say that Leah has become a complete opposite of Zer Anpin, and let's say of Zer Anpin, I'm saying of Zer Anpin, and as a result of that, there's a tremendous affinity for each other. Like they're missing parts. That's the male and the female idea. You got what that one does. You know what I mean. She has what you don't have, and you have what she don't have, and like that. So the Kabbalists say, well, that's exactly what it's all about. The only problem is that if you also look at the things that you're not alike about, you'll be irritating. So then this is the whole psychology of getting along in a marriage, is to be able to bear that irritation part, and like that. Anyway, let's go on. Ugadugmas Hatzir ba'Abba ve'Ima v'Leah. So let's say this is very similar to what we see in Abba ve'Ima and Leah. Kahu gam etzlenu kan. So it's like that by us here too. Achash Leah al yoyne kiblo mizer anpin. That Leah has now received from Zer Anpin es a chasadim, which she got from a yichud, and the gevuros which came as a result of the word Vayaavor, shenikroim ruach, that they're now called by the concept of ruach. He Yoredis, though then what happens is, she goes downwards. Malbisha es a chasadim e'ela b'Yaakov v'rochel. Now, the actual translation, because we were going through this morning in the Sifra Ditzniuta. He says, he Yoredis o Malbisha, and she causes to be clothed, es a chasadim e'ela b'Yaakov, the chasadim, these were in Yaakov, and Rochel, and Rachel. V'nosenes lechem mochem k'mavur la'el. So in other words, the Chasadim go, well, originally into Yaakov, and then ultimately into Leah. V'nosenes lechem mochem, and as a result of this, it brings them brain power. K'mavur la'el, we've talked about this before, expanded consciousness, or their full potential, let's say, actualization. The same kind of idea that we set up above. I guess what he meant to say was that Ima, the Yisod of Ima, which has the Chasadim and Gevurot, ultimately winds up in the Gevuros go into Leah, and then Yaakov gets the Chasadim, I guess, and then the Chasadim, not Yaakov, but Zeranpin gets the Chasadim, and then they meet a second way, and then the same thing happens with Rachel and Yaakov.
And he just drops in Yisrael parenthetically. I mean, where does Yisrael come from? I mean,
okay, that's an issue. Now, over when I was reading these really tremendous books on the Idras, and now in the Shifra Sifra Tzniuta, we see that the style of Rebbe Shimon in some of these really hidden type places, he's like a word dropper. So I'm wondering if that's what's going on here. In other words, all of a sudden, instead of using the language he was using over there, he drops in another word. And it doesn't seem to have any connection to anything.
Right.
So maybe that's what's happening here. Or there is some confusion, is exactly who's doing the mating. How does the mating take place when we're talking about Rachel and Yaakov? Well, I can hear that because at the bottom, that's where the Yisodas are. How does the Yichud take place between Leah and is it Yisroel, or is it Zah? Some places it says Yaakov and Leah Lamala min Achaz. That's another question. Actually, the part of the Rishash Siddur, which I don't know very well. Let's do number Kaf Aleph. So he said, V'ayidei ha'chasadim v'ha'gevur sheyardu sham, because through the chasadim and the gevurs that go down there, na'asim sham, they make there, bechinas hanefashos shechizkarno shena'asa ha'yidecha v'Yaakov v'Rachel. So ultimately, that's the point that you're trying to make through this whole process over here, is you're trying to bring it down to Yaakov v'Rachel. Okay, how tasty is it? Is it still tasty over there?
It's we could go on all day, but I think we got to stop at a certain point. That'd be a good place.
Okay, so we're getting a taste for what we're trying to say here. Ultimately, everything comes down to Yaakov and Rachel, because that's where the Malchus business is all coming towards us. I still want to pin down how this Yichud works between. I mean, I guess he told us, he said that there has to be some movement from Zer Anpin or Leah, one or the other, to be equal size. I believe that's my thought. Yaakov and Rachel are the same size, so there's no question about that. But if Zer Anpin runs from the top of the head down to the bottom of the feet, and Leah is from the chaza olamata, olamala, in other words, from, let's say, the neck going down to the chest, it's much shorter. And so we say, okay, well, it's possible that at nighttime, which is really what you're dealing with, is that she's really all the way down at the bottom too. And maybe her head grows in some way. They're equal height. And there's a yichud takes place there. That's a supposition. I don't know the answer. Listen, thanks for learning with me. I learned so much with you. This tiv is really fantastic, and we're really blessed. I had to figure out where I found this from, because I've been using it for a long time. All the best. Regards. Bye-bye.